Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Hello, everybody. Once again, I am Duck. This is Q&A. All right. Well, the people that are tuning into the YouTube channel, they're not going to get the little backstory. I'm not going to sit here and recoup all that. But anyway, so we were talking about misplaced CF cards and all that. And the question came up is, why do I like CF cards better than SD cards? So this is the two of them compared side by side. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this. So the CF cards are heavier duty. They're thicker, they're larger, and they have absolutely no moving parts, none whatsoever. The SD cards, they have, I don't know if you probably won't be able to see it. I don't know if you can see. There are pinholes for multiple pins, so that when you insert it into the camera, there you go. Now you can see them. When you insert it into the camera, there's a ton of pins that got to line up, and if you're not careful and any of those pins get bent, you're screwed. You can strain them out, but it's a pain in the ass. So SD cards, they are easier because you can see they're much fewer contacts. They're a lot broader. And there's literally nothing, when you insert it into the camera, there's really nothing that you can damage if you don't line it up carefully. But the problem is that these are really, really thin. I've broken so many of these, it's not even funny. And sometimes, because the shell is in two sections glued together, sometimes just from wear and tear, they delaminate, and you're holding an SD card in three pieces. These are much heavier duty. I've put these through the wash and came out still usable. These have a little read-write switch that you can flip. I don't know if you can see it here. A little read-write switch. All right. Sometimes they'll bust, which I don't care.
I learned real hard
What's that?
I learned real hard the problem about that read-write switch. I couldn't copy anything to my printer, my card, and I go, what happened?
Yeah.
I thought my card was, I didn't know that little click was there.
Yeah. Why they have it, I have no idea. Does anybody
Yeah.
use that read-write lockout?
Still doesn't make sense to me.
What are you going to do? Prevent people from reading this by here? Oh, you can't get to my stuff. I'm going to flip it down so you can't read or write. Oh, sorry. Here's the bypass. Oh, I'm gonna break it off. Little piece of masking or a little piece of Scotch tape fixes that issue. Why they have it, I have no clue. These I can throw in my pocket, and I know they're going to last. They're not going to get damaged. And when I go to root them out of my pocket, I can find them. These little suckers, if you got quarters in your pocket, forget it. You're fishing through quarters for these things. So, camera manufacturers, I don't know what the hell you were thinking by going into these. They're a lot flimsier. I don't know. But anyway. I ended up misplacing a couple of them. I got one more I got to find. It's somewhere. It's probably somewhere in my case. I recovered 3. But anyway, one of the things that I do on all my CF cards, I don't know if you got it. I put labels with my information, so just in case I happen to drop one of these, if anybody picks it up, they can at least give me a call. I've never lost them where I needed somebody to call me, but you know, try putting a label on one of these little suckers. Forget it. You know, you're gonna need a microscope to read it. But anyways, that's my vent. But it's
So,
my
Doug, the one last question on that. I remember having one of those large cards on a camera I owned back in 2004.
yeah.
So, is that because you have an old camera, or is there a way to change what kind of
No,
slot you? Okay.
there's no, yeah, there's no, the manufacturers, the way they built them. Back in the day, you could tell a camera that was designed for the consumer compared to a camera that was a little bit more for the pros
Oh, okay.
by this. They started really going with these for the consumer products, and then eventually they just went to this for pretty much everything nowadays. My cameras are, the 5D Mark IIs. They're what, 12, 15 years old now, they take these. And then one of them is the 5D SR, and that takes not two of these, not two of these. They want to confuse the hell out of you. One of each. One of each. Why? Why? You know, I don't get it. So, and God forbid you should put 32 of this and a 16 of this. Guess what? You're going to be running out of space on more often, you know? Ugh, idiots. I don't know. So, but anyway, that's my vent. All right. Anyway, today is Q&A. If you have a question, feel free to ask me. I will hopefully have an answer. I it's been a busy week last week, and then Saturday I was at a Santa workshop. It was great. Got to learn a little bit on some facts about reindeer. Did you know that when it gets really, really cold and you hold a flashlight near their nose, it actually does look like it glows red? Hence the story for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So anyway, um, yeah, and of course, being the holiday season's starting to come up, I'll be switching gear and doing a lot of photos with Santa. That's one of the benefits of being in a Santa society. And then yesterday, yeah, I was uh, moving logs. Uh, our my daughter-in-law's our my stepdaughter's boyfriend, not husband yet, boyfriend. They cut down a bunch of trees, so they had all these huge chunks of logs, and we had to stack them. Fun. That's what I was doing. So I didn't get a chance to come up with a topic for today. I like to have a little topic for at least a talking point, but I don't have anything set. However, I do want to give you advance warning. As you may have known already, uh, Adobe came out with a major update to pretty much their software all across the board. All right, this is something that they do, pretty much on a regular basis annually. And if you look at everything they've been doing for the past couple of years, of course, it's all AI. functionality. They're really upping the game on the AI. So anyway, they made some changes to Lightroom, Lightroom Classic, and Photoshop, and Adobe Camera Raw, all starting to incorporate a little bit more AI. And one of the things that I noticed, I know this isn't really, a Lightroom or a Photoshop session today, but uh, just to be aware, I will be getting into the updates next month. I'll be going over everything they updated in Lightroom, not as much, in Photoshop, a couple things, but Adobe Camera Raw. And the interesting thing is, up to very recently, if you've noticed, when you open up Lightroom Classic and you open up Adobe Camera Raw in Photoshop, they were almost literally identical. Okay. And as you recall, uh, at one point a few years back, Adobe made a decision to take Lightroom in two different directions. Okay. One of them called Lightroom Classic. So the original program, they renamed Lightroom Classic. And then they started developing a kind of a I guess you can say a lighter version that was cross platform. It was supposed to be able to be used on multiple cross platforms, not only desktops but tablets and even mobile phones if you have the power for it. And that one they renamed. They kept the name Lightroom. Okay. And of course, my feelings. My feeling was stick to Lightroom Classic because that's got all the bells and whistles. The Lightroom was kind of like a watered down version. It didn't have the power. It was definitely modified so it could be used on lightweight computing systems like tablets. And it relied more on cloud interface. All right, so you didn't have to keep your image storage on your system. You can put it to the cloud and be able to edit your images, cloud based. All right, but of course things progress. Computers get a little bit more better and better each year. And Now they're starting to do a little bit of a shift where Adobe Camera Raw is now starting to look a little bit more like Lightroom, all right, and getting away from the Lightroom Classic look, which is fine because I kind of like the interface of Lightroom. Um, the way they have it organized. There's a few things that are definitely labeled better, a little bit more intuitive. All right. So, but things are starting to shift. Things are going to get, moved around and relabeled. And so I don't know what your take is on oh, why does Adobe have to, keep changing things that were working fine? Oh, well, that's progress, I guess. So, anyways, I'll be going over all those changes and what Adobe has coming down the line. There's a couple things that are kind of interesting that they've released in beta. Uh, I'm not a big fan of loading beta software on my machine, so I usually don't play around with beta stuff. But I'll let you know what's coming down the line. So anyway, so stay tuned for that. If you've already updated your system, you're probably aware of some of these changes. But I'll be going over all of them, just in case maybe you missed something. I'll let you know about it. Okay. All right.
Duck, what would I use Adobe Raw for? When would that be necessary?
So yeah. So um, when you shoot RAW format, okay, RAW format is its own internal proprietary language. It's basically ones and zeros. All right. And historically, you needed some kind of converter to convert the ones and zeros into some kind of visible format. And of course, JPEG being the more popular format, that kind of won out. So if you wanted to edit a raw image, you would have to load it into a program that would translate it from the raw language to something that was editable. All right. Along came Lightroom and says, hey, we're going to build this editing engine that allows you to take your raw images and be able to edit it without having to first write to a separate format, edit that, and keep the that format that you edited. Okay, so it's kind of circumvented that we're going to translate from RAW to JPEG, and then you're editing the JPEGs. All right, so historically, that's where it first started with some of the older programs. Lightroom says, we're going to skip the middleman. We're going to give you a facsimile of what the image is. You're going to make changes, but because we're doing it virtually, non-destructively, okay, you're able to edit your image. We're able to access constantly the raw format. And then when you're ready to export, that's when we're going to marry it. Okay. But you need some kind of software to be able to read the raw format. All right. So in Lightroom, it's great. You bring all your images in, it converts them all. You can see them all in one group. You can do batch editing and all the likes. But if you're not using Lightroom, if you're only using Photoshop, Photoshop by itself could not read the raw format. All right. So initially it was like, we're going to take it, we're going to create a TIFF file, and that's it. But they said, hey, we have this engine that we developed for Lightroom. Why don't we attach it to Photoshop so that somebody who is not using Lightroom, when they first open up the raw format, they now get everything that's available in Lightroom as a raw converter. So you can do pre-edits before you even import it into Photoshop. And that's where Adobe Camera Raw came into play. All right, so Adobe Camera Raw is basically Lightroom without having to open up Lightroom in a nutshell.
Wow.
The only thing is, you don't have the library aspect. You don't have the book building aspect. You don't even have the exporting aspect of it. All you have is the develop module, and that's it. That's Adobe Camera Raw. All right. You know what? Some people are happy with that. There are, plenty of people that don't even bother with Lightroom. They have maybe, Photo Mechanic or Bridge. A lot of people started off with Bridge, and they're very happy with Bridge. It maintains their library very nicely for them. So they have no need for Lightroom. But in order to open up raw images, it needed a raw converter. And that's where Adobe Camera Raw comes in. So, okay.
Wow, that's a lot of messages there. I mean, a lot of when you open up the library, there's so many downloads you could use for just little things. I'm just wondering what the Adobe Raw meant, or now I get it.
Yeah.
Because
So, yeah. So what? what happened is when cameras, all right, so if you think back on the first early digital cameras, they took JPEGs,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and they very, to the benefit of the camera companies, they realized that that had a limitation. All right, so when you started editing JPEGs, because JPEGs were already pretty compressed, they ran into issues where you would get a lot of artifacting, you get a lot of banding. You didn't have the leeway exposure wise to fix issues with bad exposure and things like that. So they needed a better way. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, I think it was Nikon or maybe Sony. One of them, came up with a proprietary raw format, where, just literally ones and zeros that are coming straight off of the sensor. All right. And it says, okay, we have this raw data. All right. That traditionally we've been just taking this raw data and creating a JPEG from it. And then we dump this data. All right. It says, well, what if we keep this data and we write a piece of software that translates it into the JPEG outside of the camera? Bingo, that solved the problem, you know? Then Adobe said, hey, we have all these different companies writing these proprietary raw formats to all their cameras. Nikon has one, Canon has one, Sony has one, Pentax has one. All right. None of them are compatible with each other. Oh, no, you came out with a new model and now you have an updated version of RAW that doesn't match the same RAW that you've been using for the past 5 cameras that you built. All right. So every time a new model came out, they had to, say, okay, here it is. Here's the converter that you can add to your library in Photoshop, or I'm sorry, in Lightroom, in order to read our files. So Adobe says, why are we playing this game? So Adobe said, here's our raw program. Okay, this program will read any camera, any piece of hardware. This is the format. We're going to make it open source. You don't have to pay us royalties. Just use it so that everybody's using the same thing. No, we're okay with our proprietary formats. We're going to make people jump through hoops. And, so now you have CR2s, NEFs, whatever other little extensions, and you have DNG. All right, you're probably familiar with DNG through Lightroom. DNG is Adobe Digital Negative raw format, open sourced, free to use. Nobody wanted it. Okay, so that's the story for that one. Gotta wonder about these companies. Imagine if every electronic company said, hey, we're going to create this piece of equipment, but the plug that plugs into the outlet, we're going to configure it like this.
That would make too much sense.
Oh, no. If you want to use this shaver, it's this one.
Right.
All right. But if you want the hair blower, it's this one.
That sounds like Apple. Apple's a great product.
Yeah.
Great product. But you got to have your own disc plug, and then you want a program, well, you have to buy it from us. You can't go from any other source.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's they need to squeeze out every friggin' single nickel out of it. Where can we get a nickel? You know?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? We're going to change from this USB Mini to this brand new
yeah.
USB-C. So now all your cords that you use for your previous stuff, no longer. Throw them out. You got to buy new ones.
Yeah.
God. I think the only best thing that ever came out is the Mag Connect
Yeah.
for the power. I love that.
Yeah.
I wish everybody would go to that.
Yeah.
That Mag Connect, beautiful. So, but anyway, that's that's a discussion for another day. So, all right. Anybody have any questions? Any projects you're working on that you're running into some problems? Oh, Bry, I thought of you the other day because on my, I think Facebook, either Facebook or LinkedIn, I think it was Facebook feed. You know how they serve the ads every so often? I've been
Right, right.
getting a lot of ads for this little film strip converter. All right, it's a
Okay.
little film strip loader. It attaches to the end of your camera, and you use your camera to digitize negatives. And I thought of you. So I don't know if any of those ads have been coming your way.
I haven't seen those.
Yeah. So.
I'll have to go now that I don't know if I'm talking to it within shouting distance of my Alexa, but I'll probably start seeing them tomorrow.
Oh yeah. So.
That's good.
Hey, I do have a question. It's kind of I think a simple one.
Shoot.
It's this is about printing. So I'm working on a couple of old pictures, not old, but pictures I'm going to print, and the one of them I'm going to print. Well, actually, what I'm doing with the one picture is I'm going to print it, and I decide I want to print that one 8 by 10. And then I've cropped one of the people out of the picture or cropped it and made that another picture.
Okay.
So, and that's going to have, I think that's going to be 5 by 7 or something when it gets printed. So, what's the best way to proceed with that? Because I'm originally starting with one image. So far, I've made one copy. Should I go in with the each one and then set the aspect ratio there so that when I go to export it, it's ready to go and I take it to the printer?
Yeah. So, and both those are being cropped from the same negative.
Right. From the same image. I'm going to make, it's going to produce two different pictures.
Right. Okay.
And because one will be a subset of the other, and they're going to be different sizes and different aspects.
Okay. Well, aspect ratios tend to change depending on the size of what the final size of your image is going to be. So a 4 by 6 has a different aspect ratio than a 8 by 10.
Right. Well, that's why I'm asking, because I know that what I want to do is create a 8 by 10 with the one of them and a 5 by 7 with the other.
Yeah,
I know I've the printer before, and they go, you're going to have to crop this a little bit before you print. And for these, I want to make sure I get that part of it taken care of before I go there.
Yeah. So what I tend to do as a general guideline is, if I crop something that has the potential of being printed at both 4 by 6 and 8 by 10,
Mm-hmm.
I typically will crop it with a little bit more headroom and a little bit more foot room
Yeah.
for the 4x6, because I know when I go to take that and print it as an 8x10, I'm going to crop the top and bottom. All right. So I want to make sure that I have, headroom and foot room so that when it does get cropped, I'm not losing anything critical. All right. Because it depends on where you go to get it printed. Because I know if I take it to like CVS or Walmart or Walgreens, you go to the kiosk, you load a photo, it loads it center, and it's going to crop top and
Yeah.
bottom. It's not like you can designate, most of the time you can't designate where the crop's going to go. So I tend to favor anything that's a little bit longer on the length than it is on the width. All right.
Here's another thing I want to be able to do, or why I'm trying to get down to exactly what I want to print that I send out, because excuse me. I won't. Well, two things. This is going to be a better print. I'm thinking I'm going to take it to Milford and maybe get a better paper
Okay.
for one of them. And the other thing that I want to have, and I don't know if it's partly vanity or whatever, but I want to have my signature that I normally put on photos there, but I want to make sure that the aspect is right so that it doesn't
Oh,
get
yeah,
cropped
yeah,
out.
yeah.
You know how
Yep.
that can happen.
Gotcha. All right.
So, so that's why
So
I'm saying I
yeah,
want to be able
so
to take each one and say, okay, you're going to end up as this picture, and you're going to end up as this picture, and
right.
I'll never do anything else with you. I'll go back to the original and start
Yeah,
there if I need to.
yeah. So what I normally do in Lightroom, I usually export from Lightroom simply because it's easiest. Um, if if you know your file is going to go for an 8x10, I will go ahead and crop to that 8x10. So that when I export it, it's exporting it at the 8x10 aspect ratio. And then because it's using a preset to add my watermark, your signature, okay,
Hmm.
the placement of, as you build your watermark, the placement is dependent on your aspect ratio. All right. So if you say, okay, I want this
Okay.
watermark down in the lower left edge, it builds it off that corner. So it goes from that corner. It's going to say, okay, I'm going to bring it in 6 pixels and up 6 pixels, and that's where I'm going to place it. Okay. So if you do it for a 4x6 and then use that 4x6 aspect ratio to print an 8x10, it'll probably slice off halfway through your watermark. All right.
I've been thinking as far as the signature goes, I went and calculating that. I'm going to have to figure that there's going to be a frame involved, and that's the picture's going to be whatever amount they put behind the frame when you're framing up a
Yeah,
picture.
usually about a 16th,
Yeah,
eighth at the
because I
most.
hadn't thought of that. I was thinking what I would do is have a preset that didn't have any sizes attached to it, but did have the signature where I wanted it, and then go from there when I
Yeah, but
export it.
here, let me
Or I
switch
guess
over.
have a high quality print format preset.
Let's see, where are we? Okay. Let me go ahead and share this. Share. All right. We'll use this flower as as an example. Okay. So if you notice, this is definitely not aspect ratio of a 8 by 10. Okay. This is probably, closer to either 4 by 6. Yeah. So this is a 4 by 6. All right. And so what I do is, oops, why did, give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right. So uh, I'm just going to use this grid as an example. All right. So you create a PNG to use for your watermark. All right. And you have it so that, you're going to put it on the lower right hand side. Okay. And you want it so that the lowermost corner is maybe, let's say, 10 pixels in from the edge and 10 pixels up. Okay. And it puts it right here. Okay. So what I was saying is that once it's embedded into your JPEG, you really can't move it. Okay.
Right.
So now you have this beautiful photo that can print really, really nicely with the signature in the correct place for a 4 by 6. So you say, hey, you know what? I'd like to have an 8 by 10. Okay. But the 8 by 10 is actually a little bit shorter and a little bit, let me move that out of the way, and a little bit wider. Okay. So now, because it's basically cropping from the center, now all of a sudden you find that your watermark is in the wrong place because the watermark was formatted for a 4 by 6 aspect ratio, and now you're going to an 8 by 10, which now puts it further away from the edge, all right, from the right edge. And like I said, I find usually it'll cut off a portion of the watermark from the bottom edge. All right. So that doesn't do you any good. So what I would suggest is if you know what sizes you're going to print,
And I do.
right, and look at the aspect ratios, all right, because if the aspect ratios are the same, fine. One file will solve all your printing problems. But if the aspect ratios are different, I would suggest printing or exporting them out to the two different aspect ratios, because what happens is for the 8 by 10, all right, so let's switch this to 8 by 10. You can see how it cuts off that upper part and bottom part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now here in Lightroom, I can say, no, I want to keep the, the framing more to the upper part. I can do this, but a lot of those kiosk places, or, or even if you just send it in and say, hey, I want this printed out, they're not going to do this kind of adjustment. They're just going to slap it on whatever the middle of the image, that's what's going to get printed. All right. But if you export it at this new format, then when you place the your logo, your signature, it's going to place it appropriately for that new aspect ratio. All right. So you'll have one file for your 4 by 6, one file for your 8 by 10. It's a little bit more work on your part, but you're going to get better results.
And when you say file, I'm saying I start with my original and then I made a virtual copy.
No, no, because
No?
no. Uh, well,
Oh, what I did, I had my original, and then I made a virtual copy, and I did all the work on the original that I
yeah,
wanted to do, and then I went over to the virtual copy, and that's where I cropped it down to the single person instead of two people. That's what's the difference between them. One has a couple in it, and the other one
yeah.
just has
All
one
right.
person.
So yeah, so you can do a batch. All right, here, let me go to library. All right. You can do a batch export. Okay. Um, so let's say, uh, do I have any here that, I don't really do any prints, so none of my presets are for prints.
Okay.
All right. But here, I have one, 1200
Well, I was thinking
pixels.
I could make one called high quality print, and I wouldn't set any of the width or length or that kind of stuff. Just the high quality print 300, and then turn on a appropriately set signature
Yeah.
or
So there's yeah,
watermark.
so there's a couple ways you can do it. Well, obviously, have your preset. Okay. Um, with the preset, you don't need to designate any information about aspect ratio. All right, because the when you create a watermark, where's our watermark? Here we go. When you create a watermark, the watermark is relative to a corner position. Okay.
Right.
Um, so you can see, like, for example, right here, you designate what the anchor is. Okay. So let's say it's going to be the lower right. All right. And you also designate how far from the right edge and how far from the bottom it places it. Okay. So the nice thing is you can have a preset to to give you a file large enough to print. All right. So you want full resolution, 300 dpi, your watermark lower right hand corner. Okay. It doesn't matter what the aspect ratio is. Okay. At least in this part here, the computer doesn't care. All right. Because whatever aspect ratio comes through this particular preset, it's going to place that watermark the same exact position in from that anchor point on all your images, regardless if they were square format, 8 by 10s, 4 by 6s, 11 by 17s. It doesn't matter. It's going to place that watermark in the exact same spot from the corner on all of them. All right. You're the one that needs to do the work ahead of time. All right. Uh, and say, okay, well, I need, let's say you got 12 images. Out of the 12 images, 6 are going to be printed 8 by 10s, 6 are going to be printed 4 by 6s. All right. Um, so you have to say, okay, when I batch these 6 images, all right, here's this one. This one I am going to format as a 4 by 6. Okay. And if you want to say, okay, you know what? I kind of like this and I want to take this one and print this also as an 8 by 10. All right. There's a couple ways you can do it. One, batch process all your 4 by 6s, then come back, edit your, for your 8 by 10s, place this where you need to, all right, and then process those as 8x10s, okay? Or if you need to keep a record of this, all right, that's where you will then create your virtual copy, all right, if you need to create a historical record. Otherwise, the computer doesn't care, all right? So we actually will go to reset that one, okay? So now I have one formatted for 4x6, 4 by, do I have, yeah, 4x6, and then this one is 8x10, okay? When you send it to the export presets is not going to recognize the work that you did here, all right? It's just going to take whatever you're feeding it in, and it's going to spit it out, all right? So it's up to you to kind of do your homework and to see, all right, this image is going for 4x6, this one's going for 8x10, all right?
Wait a minute, Duck.
Yeah.
Say that again. If I've got the image on the left and I've gone through the thing and I've set it to 4x6 aspect
Yep.
ratio and I'm looking at it, and I go now and export that,
Yep.
it's going to export it at a 4x6?
It's going to export it at 4x6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So
Heard that wrong the last time.
what you feed in, it's going to spit out.
Okay.
Okay. So then you take this one and you spit, you can do it all at the same time, all right? Because you've changed the aspect ratio here. 8x10 goes in, 8x10 comes out. Okay. Now, where the problem comes with this is a good solution for you to keep track of different aspect ratios. You can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to create another virtual copy. All right, let's create another virtual copy. All right, and this time I am going to I'm going to have it custom framed, custom formatted to a 1x1. All right, so now I have a 4x6, a 1x1, and an 8x10 format. Okay. And you created a preset that's going to print to generate the JPEG full size, okay, full size, 300 dpi, ready to go to the printer, okay? So you have all these different sizes going in, but because they are all virtual copies of each other, guess what they share in common? The file name. All right.
Okay.
So now, all right, what's the file name on this one? I don't know. I don't know what the file name.
That's image 40. That's image 89.
All right. So, okay. All right. Yeah. So this is image 89. Guess what this one is? It's a virtual copy, but it's also image 89. Okay. And this is also image, I can write 89. Okay. So now it processes the first one, labels it image 89 JPEG, right? Then it comes up to this one and it says, oh, wait a minute. There's already an image 89. I now have to stop the process and ask you, hey, there's already an image 89 JPEG. What do you want me to do with this one? All right. Do you want me to override and write over the other file, or do you want me to give this a unique name? Okay. Oh, you want to probably give it a unique name. It says, oh, okay, that's easy enough. I'll just put the number 2 after. All right. And then it goes, processes that, and it says, oh, wait a minute. Hey, guess what? I got an image that says it's image 89 in the already processed. What do you want me to do with this one? So it's going to ask you all over again. All right. And you have to say, oh, keep it, just give it a new name. All right. I'm going to give it image 89-2. Wait, there's already an image 89-2. I got to label this one image 89-2-2. All right. So it gets a little bit confusing. All right. So if you don't do a lot of processing that way, it's easy. You just put up with it, and you say, when the dialog boxes pop up warning you that, hey, what do you want me to do with this? You just say, give it a unique name. But if you're doing hundreds of these, guess what? That becomes a serious problem. All right. So I'm going to show you a way to get around that. Because if you're doing multiple files and you need to keep track as you are giving them to, whoever's doing the printer, or whoever's doing the printing, all right, if you want to give them some way of being able to navigate all these files, you might want to say, you know what? I'm going to process all of these individually, all right, but in batches, all right, meaning I will batch process all my 4x6s together, okay? And I have a preset that's going to give me a full resolution, 300 dpi, printable JPEG file. But when it comes to saying, okay, in the export dialog box, where it says file renaming, all right, you can say, in this case, I'm going to whatever file name, file name, all right. And there you can go like dash or underscore 4x6 underscore, and then, whatever file number. I usually keep to the file number, okay? But now you can have duplicates, but you're going to be running all your 4x6s using this preset that labels everything as 4x6, okay? And then the batch of images that are by 8x10s, it's literally the same exact preset. The only change is the custom text will now say 8x10. Okay, that's the only change in that preset. All right, so now when it processes those, you can dump them in the same folder as the 4x6s, but there's not going to be a name conflict because the naming process adds 8x10, not 4x6. Okay, so now when you hand over your images, or what I would do is I would even segregate them into folders. This folder is all my 4x6s. This folder is all my 8x10s. So when you hand over the information to some clerk, they know what to do, all right? Or if you're doing the printing yourself at a kiosk, all right, you can load from the 4x6s into the kiosk, and you can do a batch process through the kiosk of that folder 4x6, and all those are being printed at 4x6. You load them in, get them registered into the machine, then you can go back, add the 8x10s, process those through as 8x10s. All right? Because the alternative, especially at these kiosks, is if you want to take all of these 4x6s and print them 8x10s, guess what you got to do? You got to go through that whole process of recropping. All right, because it's going to warn you this is not cropped, that this is formatted for 4x6. You're going to lose information. Now you have to go through the cropping process. But if you pre-cropped, all you do is you load them in the whole entire folder, label them as being printed at an 8x10, and you're done. Make sense? Okay. So yeah, it's a little bit more work ahead of time for you, but it should make the printing process go that much more smoothly. All right. Especially if you're having somebody else do the printing for you. All right. You want to be as crystal clear with your instructions to the printer so that there is no confusion. All right. If you give them a pile that says these are to be printed 4x6s, there's no confusion. All right. They all get printed 4x6. And then this pile, they're labeled 8x10s. There's no confusion. You know, they may see the same image. Hey, this file, this rose is also in this one. All right. But there's no question. You know, that one got printed 4x6. These are getting printed 8x10s. All right. So, that way they don't have to keep track of, all right, in the instructions, this client says, you know, image 89 is also getting printed as an 8x10. Well, guess what? That's another point of error that can happen. You know, all of a sudden you get all your images back and you got, oh, well, here's my rose that's 4x6. Where's my 8x10? Oh, they forgot to do it. All right. Why? Because things slip through the cracks. But if the file was there and the file is what they're printing, then there's no second guessing any of that. All right. So hopefully that makes sense.
If you set it up, you only have to set up one time, though, correct?
The preset?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you set the preset, it's done.
Exactly.
It's in JPEG.
Exactly.
You can't move it. You can't move it around.
Yeah, exactly. But where the complication comes in is that you have to be cognizant of what aspect ratios you're setting ahead of time.
Right.
You know, so you know, so in this case, you know, I want the rows printed in 3 different formats. All right, I have to make sure that I run this one, number 1, as a 4x6 through the 4x6 preset. I run number 2 through my 8x10 preset, and I run image number 3 through my 1x1 preset. All right. Well, actually, this one, you know what? How often are you going to print a 1x1? Not very often. So you can probably do this manually. This probably doesn't need a preset. You know, this you can do manually. But the ones that you do on a regular basis, you know, your 4x6s and your 8x10s, yeah, have 2 separate presets. You know, it costs nothing to have a preset.
Okay.
You know, and if you do 11x14s, I think the 11x14th is still, you know, the 8x10 format, right? I think. 4x5 and a half 11. Yeah, I think it's the same format. Let's see. Custom, enter custom. What is it? 11x14. Yeah, it's the 8x10, 11x14, 8x10 aspect ratio. So, you know, when you label it 8x10 / 11x14. Okay. All right, let me get rid of these virtual copies. We don't need all those. Okay. All right.
When you did that session, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was about printing presets.
Yeah.
It really changed the way I do things and makes it a whole lot easier and keeping track of the output.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This type of thing is just wonderful. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
was wondering about this because I've got these special little requirements. So I thought it would take a special little preset, but once I get it set up, make things easy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. See, I love the fact that I can send when I do a batch process for export, I can send that whole entire batch to a very specific folder on my system. And because of that, I tend to name those folders according to what needs are. So if something's going for a client, I'll have a client folder. So I don't have to go crazy. Everything lands on my desktop, so I know exactly where to find it. It's labeled client, so there's no mistaking that's where it went. So create when you do the export. All right. Let's see. Export. Okay. The first thing you're going to do is have your export location. Okay. Have it go to a very specific folder. All right. I have it on my desktop, put it into subfolder called, I don't know, printing. All right. Or how about to print? Okay. Label it to print. Okay. So that way, everything goes into that. Okay. Um, or, all right. And this is a little weird. Okay. Because there's two parts to this. All right. The first part is if there is a folder already existing on your machine, you can send it. You can send it to that folder. Okay. So as you can see, most of the time I'm sending it to my desktop. Okay. And then I will create a subfolder. All right. And this subfolder, if it is not existing, it will create it. Okay. It will create it. All right. So if I say I want to take all these images that are going to be going to the printer. I wanted to put it into a folder called to print. All right. But here's the problem. I want two subfolders, one called 4x6 and one called 8x10. Okay. I cannot put, and I wish Lightroom would change this. It'd be an easy thing to do where in here you put in subfolder, all right? If you did to print slash 4x6, oh my God. Imagine what you can do. All right, the to print folder doesn't exist. I'm going to create it. All right. And then inside that, I'm going to create a 4x6 folder because it's also non-existent. Can't do it. Can't do it. All right. You can only do one level subfolder. So what do you got to do? Outside of Lightroom, you have to create that to print folder. All right. But here's the thing.
I got you.
Here's the thing. If at one point you decide to delete it, okay, and this here is saying it's looking for a to print folder that got deleted, guess what? It's not going to find it. All right. So it's going to default back to the desktop. All right. And whatever you have in this subfolder, it's going to create that subfolder in that desktop because it cannot find this folder because you deleted it. All right. So if you're going to use this folder a lot, you can empty the folder, don't delete it.
Yeah.
Because as long as this preset relies on this information on this line only, this line right here, okay? If it doesn't find it, it skips it. It doesn't create a new one. It just skips it, all right? And then it'll go down to the subfolder. It will create that, all right? You know, again, it'd be easy for Adobe to fix that and make it so that you can do nesting subfolders, but until they fix that, who knows? All right. So if you have, you know, like for example, my client folder, when I spit out information for my clients, often my clients are asking for several formats. All right. So for example, I have one client that says, I want a JPEG at this size, but I need a TIFF at this size. All right. That's fine. I can do that. All right. Here it is. Okay. Actually, both, no, they're both the same size. Okay. But I'm spitting out one JPEG and one TIFF. All right. I need to deliver them on two separate folders, one labeled JPEG and one labeled TIFF, because on their end, they're going to two separate departments. All right. So to make it easier for them, I take the burden of segregating it on my end, which is not a big deal. I can just kick it out with with two presets that I select at the same time. All right. So I just put in a little check mark here and a little check mark there. All right. And it's going to process one image two different ways, kick it out to two different locations. All right. But it's going to kick it out to a folder. And of course, I deleted it. All right. But it's usually a folder called client. Okay. All right. And then there it is. It'll put it into a subfolder called JPEG. Okay. But because I deleted that client folder, all right, it was not available here. So it pretends it's not even there, you know, which can be a little frustrating. Now, I can alleviate that and say, okay, well, I just want to go to the desktop, and in the subfolder, I'll put in client. But guess what? Now I have to go to the client folder and I have to manually separate the JPEGs from the TIFFs, which I don't want to do. Right? So
Right now I
be
have
aware of that.
yeah. Well, right now I have a text high res, and a social media folder on my desktop. So, and I keep them out there, and I just go out and empty them out from
Yeah.
time to time.
Yeah.
So, so I'll probably, like you say, have one that's either the high res or the text high res. Well, and for the amount of work I'm doing, it would probably be easy enough for me just to print the one size and then move it and then do the other set. So
Yeah,
no, that'll work.
Yeah, you know, there's the flexibility. You arrange it the way makes sense to you. You know, I presented a couple different ways. So, you know, later on it says, you know what, I'm starting to get a little bit busier, or I'm forgetting to do this. Let me, you know, make that little switch, and I'll let Lightroom auto process it for me.
But making those virtual copies on the fly too is nice for, looking at different aspect ratios side by side
Yeah.
to see how they look. Because this one picture that I'm working on, the cropped out one, it's from a snapshot, but it's of a friend of mine, and it's just a stellar picture of her. So I'm really trying to do it as much justice as I can. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
probably go back now and play around with that and say, maybe 5 by 7 isn't the best. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
we'll see what will work better.
So
So
now one issue that I that did come up as you were talking is um, file resolution. All right. So if you're taking a smaller section out of a larger file. All right. So for example, here's an old portrait that I took of this woman. Okay. She was gracious enough to let me use it for workshop. Okay. Straight out of camera, 4:6 format, but it's horizontal. If I wanted to print this as an 8:10 vertical, I first got to go to 8:10, which keeps the horizontal. I then have to convert it to portrait mode and then reformat. Okay. So imagine trying to do that in a kiosk. That's asking way too much. All right, those kiosks are designed to be used by the simpleton to do simple things, not anything complex. All right, so rotating the aspect ratio on those kiosks, unless you're very familiar, can be tricky. And now you have to find somebody to come and help you, and they're gonna go, let me help the poor little idiot, and they just make you feel this small, because you don't know how to use their machine, right?
well, that's why
So
I go to Milford Photo now, and
yeah,
I know their name, and I think they know me.
yeah. All right,
Oh, here
but
comes that dumb one.
yeah. So, but the nice thing is, uh, uh, if you're doing the editing and you want the images to look the way you want, you know, keeping it in your own ecosystem allows you to be as creative as you want and maintain the control as you want, you know? So now you can say, okay, here it is. This is going to be, cropped to my 8:10 portrait mode. Okay. Which is fine. The file can handle it. But now, you say, okay, it's not a portrait or anything, but, let's say here, all right, I want to print, actually, let me make a virtual copy. Okay. So, here we go. We're going to do a 4:6. It's in landscape, but I want to go to portrait mode and I want just the fountain. Okay. I have the height. That should be no problem. Okay. On this other one, I want, a 8:10. Okay. 8:10. All right. Not horizontal. I'm going to go to vertical, but I only want the statue. Okay. So now what I want you to, what I want you to notice, okay, is that we cut out a lot. All right. We cut out a lot. The question you have to ask yourself is there enough resolution in that cropped section that there's enough for me to be able to print an 8:10? Okay. So,
Well, what I've done I've considered that already,
okay.
and um, that's where I brought in a little topaz resolution.
Yeah.
make it
Good.
bigger.
Okay. Good. You understand it then. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have to look at what your cropped dimensions are, because that's going to inform you if you have enough information there to be able to print at the size you want. Okay.
So
Now, here's
what,
the here's
can
yeah,
I,
go ahead.
can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Just for we're looking at 18 by 22. So 18, if I divide that by 300, I get around 600. Is that six? So six, that would be then 6 by whatever print that would be good at? Anything
Yeah.
larger would start to be fuzzy
Well, not fuzzy.
or
All right,
pixelate.
here's the thing. Uh it's going to interpolate upwards. So what's going to happen is whatever computer they use is going to expand to the size, and it's going to, fill in the gaps. Um, you may get some softening of edges, but it's not like it's going to be readily visible. All right. But what you will start noticing is the pixelation.
Right.
All right. The pixelation of the image. All right. Because it's depending on the type of printer, it may not even interpolate upwards. It may just take it and stretch it to fit. Okay. And not fill in any of the, uh, any of the, because it's not losing data. It's just stretching the data, you know,
Mhm.
it's not expanding it. It's not saying, okay, we're going to expand it, and wherever there are spaces that need to be filled in, we're going to fill it in. No, we're going to stretch it, and we're going to, make it fit that area, and that's how we're going to print it. All right. So you start getting this kind of stair stepping or pixelation. All right. Here's the thing you have to understand. Okay. Um, you also have to consider not only the dimension of the print, but also the viewing distance.
Right.
Okay. So, for example, if you ever were to walk up to a billboard and look at it up close, you're going to see large dots of ink. All
Right.
right. And it's going to look like, some kind of impressionist, pixelated image. But billboards are not designed to be viewed up close. They're designed to be viewed from a quarter mile away. All right. So the resolution of those pixels at that distance works itself out so that everything looks clear. Okay. It's the same thing with images that you mount on the wall. Okay. A poster you're going to see from far away. If you ever bought a commercially printed poster, all right, and you hang it on your wall and you walk up close and look at it, you're going to see all the dots of ink. It looks like hell. All right. But you have to understand that's not what it's designed, how it's designed to be looked at. It's designed to be looked at from a distance. You're looking at your poster from a distance in order to take the whole thing in. All right. It's the same thing with prints. All right. So you can probably get away with a little bit of pixelation on an 8 by 10. All right. Because you're still going to be viewing it from a distance. And a lot of people don't have that discerning eye. Okay. But if you crop too much, then it becomes very obvious. All right. And then, the image starts falling apart, even though you're still looking at it from a distance. All right. So you have to be aware of your size. And yeah, we live in the golden age when we can take it through Topaz and say, hey, Topaz, I want you to expand this to a higher resolution. And it does a really, really good job. You know, even Photoshop, you can size it up 200% and it's going to do a really good job at resizing it. You know,
Mm.
go up 400, then it starts falling apart.
I'll have to
uh,
say these photos are, I think it's from a snapshot from a point and shoot camera originally. I'm
oh
not
yeah,
sure
so if it
when and where
was,
I took it. It's maybe a scan. It must be a scan or something. Or anyway, uh, so that I don't know how big I'll be able to print it anyway because of that. But yeah, it is amazing what
yeah.
you
Well,
can do now.
the nice thing is, 8x10s at Walmart, CVS, especially when they're running a sale. They're only $3, $4,
Yeah,
$5 at the most. So you can run a test on one print and see how it looks. And if it looks good, then you're good. If not, then you have some work to do. And you're only out
that's good.
$5.
That's a good idea. Because you're right. If you go down to the Walgreens or whatever, and you've got the right size, it should go pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And then so you're out $5, but you have peace of mind whether the file could handle it. All right. And at that point, you say, okay, there, I found my limit. That's my limit. Okay. And if I go below that limit, I know I'm going to have to resize my file. Okay. Otherwise, I'm good. And then you can then take them to a better printer like Milford Photo. All right. And you're only $5 out to do the test. So, all
Good idea.
right.
All right. Thank you.
Some cool. Some nice questions. All right. Anybody else got anything? I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. Any other questions? We good? Okay. Colors are starting to change, uh, um, especially here along the waterfront. Okay. So if you are into photographing fall colors, now's the time to do it. All right. I was talking to a guy earlier today, a friend of mine who does portrait work, and he says this is the time of year where he gets busy because a lot of the families want those beautiful fall colors as backgrounds for their family portraits. So he says, during the summertime when the weather's beautiful, not so much. It's when the colors start changing. That's when he gets the calls. So it's like he's going to be busy for a while. So if you like photographing the fall colors, get your cameras out there. You know, um, we had the super moon. Anybody get the photos of the Northern Lights? Anybody do any of that?
No, I can't.
No luck.
No luck.
Yeah, I can't seem to find them.
Yeah.
Or the comet. My sister sees it all the time. I go, where? She says it west at sunset. But if
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm too low to the ground. I need to
Yeah.
go someplace higher.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Astrophotography is something I never really got into, so I don't keep up with any of that. But yeah, it's
It's supposed to be pretty large. I mean, it's
mhm.
bigger than Haley's comet by double the
Right.
size.
Yeah.
It might
Uh,
be interesting to see. I mean, next
so
time around, it's
yeah,
2,000 years from now, so
yeah,
I'm
oh
not going to
yeah.
wait.
What is 187 or something like that?
Yeah.
187 years. Yeah. Uh, NASA maintains several websites, and I think one of them allows you to track stellar bodies.
Oh, NASA.
So you can literally punch in your location, and it'll tell you where in the sky and what time, uh, uh, where to look, at what time in order to see that particular, feature. So you might want to consider that.
I certainly will.
So,
I have a free app that it shows you where, when you look at it, it shows you where things are in the sky in front of you, if you will. So if you type in the moon, it'll take you
yeah,
so that you're looking at the
yeah,
moon.
that's photo ephemeris is one of those, but I don't think they track comets, and I don't think they
Oh yeah,
track northern lights.
oh yeah. I guess that these things got all the satellites and all
Oh,
the
it
stars
does.
and constellation. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
you can look up and tell you right where the Hubble is and the space station and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Oh, nice, nice. Um, what's the name of the app?
Let me get it for you and talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, because I use on the desktop I use photo ephemeris, but like I said, I'm not really into the astrophotography, so I only just pretty much use it for like where's the moon gonna be. But on my phone, I have um, what's it called? Photo pills. Photo pills. I like it because it has the VR capabilities, so the virtual reality capabilities. So I uh, once I load it on here. Let me go to chat here. Once I load it on, uh, I basically through my camera, it scans, whatever I'm looking at, it superimposes the stars, the Milky Way. It's awesome. It shows you, and you can just kind of like look around with your camera, and it'll show you the path of the Milky Way, where
Well, that's
the
what this one is. Maybe it's the same one.
is it?
And
It's called
I'm
photo
feeling bad because I
pills.
can't. What's that?
It's called photo pills.
Oh,
Photo pills. You know, it's got a planner. You can calculate for where the sun's going to be. So if you're doing outdoor portraits or street photography, you can, um, determine where the sun's going to be, how high, and all that good stuff. The moon, it has an exposure calculator. It's got a depth of field calculator. Uh, meteor showers. It has the capability to figure out how to get the star trails. So the circular star trails.
okay.
Um, it has a time lapse feature. It has a timer. It has the ability to calculate subject distance. So with certain cameras, I think it uses the lidar.
Mm.
And then it's got the night AR.
Well, the one I had is duck is called Sky View, but it's
Skyview.
just kind of neat because there's an option you can turn on so you can see the room you're in, but it'll show you when you look around what the moon
Yeah,
is and
I don't know if you
yeah,
can.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's VR. Of course, I got the green screen behind me, so that's gonna mess it all up. But I don't know if you can see it. Just there we go. I'll turn the camera off. All right, it shows you the path of what is that? That's facing west. What's that? Oh, that's the galactic. Oh, that's the galactic center of the Milky Way. So, all right, this line here, that's my horizon. Let's see, where? All right, and you can see that the um, galactic center is just above my horizon right now. So it tells you where where you got to be aiming at uh, to get it. Um, because sometimes, if you've ever have you ever shot the Milky Way, any of you? All right. Sometimes looking at it, it's unless you're in a really clean, clear sky. Um, the winter time's probably the best. You're gonna get unlimited view. But oftentimes, there if you got any kind of light pollution, it's often very difficult to see that Milky Way. You know, so this kind of puts you in the right area. All right. And then once you aim it and you set your timer, jack up that ISO, that Milky Way really comes through on the camera, you know?
Was that a topic of discussion or going to be a next topic, or did that ever come up about? There are places that they designated as dark spots or dark sky that you can go and,
Yeah, it's called a heat map, light pollution heat map. That you can zoom into your area and it'll tell you, it'll show you kind of like you know what a heat map is, right? It
right.
uses different colors for different intensities. It'll let you know where the brightest areas of Connecticut is and where the darkest areas are, so you can go to those specific areas.
There's some places that they've designated as, I don't know if they're in state parks or national parks or just places, but dark spots. I lost the name of the term, but we can go and do that because I'd like to go do something like that.
Hmm.
But that heat map idea would be good. And you go, where's the dark place?
Yeah, yeah,
other than 20 miles offshore.
yeah, yeah. From what I understand, here in Connecticut, up north near Hublin Tower is a great place. Um, uh, where Litchfield County tends to be really good because there's really not a lot of big towns or cities up there.
Right.
And also in the north east corner, up in Pomfret area, up in that area is also pretty good. Anything, literally anything from Route 84 that kind of bisects the state, anything from 84 south, you're not going to get anything
Forget
good.
about it. Yeah.
You know, we got Waterbury, Bridgeport, New Haven, Fairfield, New London, uh, you name it. They're all down south of 84, and they're all going to just throw up a lot of light. So,
Probably the last time I saw it, I was in the Smoky Mountains and there was no moon, and you literally could not see the hand in front of your face.
yeah,
And there were no lights for as far as you could see, and we were almost at the top of the mountain. Yeah,
yeah,
it's something. It takes your breath away sometimes.
yeah. Let me tell you, the best one. Like I said, I'm not big into astrophotography, but I had the opportunity to go to Monhegan Island off the coast of Maine with some photography friends. We rented an Airbnb and we stayed a week out on Monhegan Island. It's a popular artist community, and the town pretty much survives on fishing. And there's there's no there's only like maybe 6 cars on the whole entire island. No street lights. All right. Uh, After sundown, if you're walking, around, if there's no moon, you're walking in pitch black. All
Right.
right. But there's a lighthouse. It's a real working lighthouse. It's automated now, so but you go up there and you have this almost 360-degree view of the entire island and just all of the sky. And let me tell you, when I say you can see the Milky Way crystal clear with your naked eye, it was beautiful. You just sit on a reclining chair and you're just looking up, and it's just this dazzling array of diamonds up there. It was fantastic. You know, that's one of the few times I took astrophotography shots because it was in my face, really, you know, and it was gorgeous. I'd love to go back. I'd love to put together a trip. Get a bunch of photographers to pitch in, get another Airbnb, and just do photo sessions out there. There's so much to photograph.
How
So
big of a drive is that?
it's
Ten
I
hours?
think it was like a 3 hour drive, and then you got to take the ferry out.
Oh, ferry. Okay.
Yeah, the ferry comes twice a day. If you miss it, you're stuck. But yeah, we rented a Airbnb on the island, and pretty rustic. It's not, the cabins, the houses and cabins out there are, about 100 years old. They
Right.
show it, you know. They're not the most um, comfortable of accommodations. You got to bring in your own food. They do have a
Right.
grocery store, but everything's expensive because everything's got to be shipped in.
Right.
So you bring in your own food. You take cold showers because
And no hot water.
very little hot water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had a blast. It was great. We just spent all day walking around, photographing different things. There. I think I can probably show you. Let's see, Monhegan.
I think you've used some of the pictures from there as as
Yeah, I probably
work thing.
have. They're on my backup. They're not on here. Okay, they're on my backup. Yeah, 2019. That's when we were there. So, sorry, I don't have them here. But yeah, they were. Oh, we had such a great time. So, anyway, that's all we got for today. Unless anybody's got any last minute questions. Okay. And I don't even have any events coming up. I know CTPPA had a thing at the Beardsley Zoo on Saturday. That went over pretty good. So, Robert Fiedler, all right. He's the one that runs the Harford County Amateurs Photography Group, and he's the one that's been working with the Art League of New Britain. He's the one that brought me in to do the portrait lighting workshop. He's going to be working with on getting a light painting workshop together, and I think who is it? Richard Bush is going to be leading that workshop. So if you're interested, he works with models, so it'll be probably bodyscapes or something along that line. Who knows? But if you're interested, keep a lookout on that. It's being put together. Reach out to the Art League of New Britain for that one, or you can reach out to Robert at the Hartford County Amateur Photography Group on Facebook. All right. And once he gives me the information, I'll be passing it along to anybody. So
Maybe I could bring another one of my guitars.
yeah, cool. All right, guys. As always, thank you for hanging out with me. Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Take it easy. Get some nice fall color shots, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks. Okay.
Good night, and thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.